So this is the Better Call Harry special holiday podcast edition, and I'm here with Daniel Polk with the FBI, which is really kind of funny because I was on the phone with somebody. I said, I gotta go because the FBI's here. It's something people don't often hear. And I want to add one other thing. Daniel's very tall. I'm not really this tall. I'm standing on a box, but we're not going to show it to you. But you are here anyway to talk about something that is a little bit more serious, which holiday scams. And I talk a lot to viewers about this, and I have all kinds of input, but it's not often that we get to talk to a special agent who actually deals with some of these victims. So why don't we start off with...
Let's start with it. Yeah, and I usually apologize, Harry, right off the bat when people see me. Netflix does a really good job of making people think FBI agents are actually way taller and bigger and muscular than I am. So I'm actually a little bit smaller than people would imagine. However, holiday scams is kind of something right now that we're very focused on, given the season. A lot of shopping happening, a lot of shipping updates, things going out. So we're seeing a huge uptick when it comes to the ways scammers are targeting people right now.
What are some of the specific scams that are going out?
So I'll give you an example. My mom called me the other day and she was on Instagram and she saw a dress from a company that she followed on Instagram that she loved. The dress was on sale for 80% off, right? An insane mark off. Went to that website by clicking on that ad. The site looked identical to the site she knows. Connected her PayPal, money's gone, dress never shows, right? So what happens there is kind of sophisticated. A scammer knows that my mom or people like her follow a certain brand and they'll put out fake ads targeted to that specific brand. And so what we're really encouraging people to do in that case is never click a promoted link. And I would say that's true also when you Google something. So what I encourage my mom to do is, hey, next time if you see a dress on sale on Instagram, go to Google, search for the company, and that first result that pops up, as you know, Harry, is usually promoted. Right. And we're seeing scammers send promoted links to be the first result that people click, oftentimes with bank accounts, things like that, a Chase or Bank of America. It might be a fake malicious link. So what we're telling people is take that extra step. It's a little less convenient. Find the verified site. If that dress is still for sale on there, you're good to go. If it's not, it's too good to be true.
But are you saying that these people, the scammers, they knew that your mom that was like a specifically targeted ad?
Yeah, I would not say that they knew Mama Polk loves this exact brand, but they know there's enough people that follow these types of brands that they would put out an ad, mimic to look exactly like that brand, and they just tell Instagram, send this to as many people who are following these types of accounts.
That's really sophisticated for them to know how to do that, and that it's gotten to this point where you really don't know what you're clicking on.
It's true, and I think the challenge here is until companies are able to use AI tools to kind of sniff out what's malicious, what's not on the front end, it still requires customers and the community, like you and me, to see something that feels off and report it as a malicious ad. And then those companies very quickly will take those down. So right now, that's kind of still the age that we're in.
Right, but the bottom line is that if you see a sale for 80% off, that's a red flag right there.
Could be a red flag. Yeah. It's a hell of a sale, right? That's an amazing sale, but you should take that time to take a few extra steps to find that verified company site and make sure it's still there.
I am always skeptical about buying from, say, a social media influencer or anybody on Instagram where you're giving your money directly to them. I mean, do you get more complaints about Instagram scams versus general or Facebook or?
Yeah, I would say scammers are really agnostic when it comes to the type of tool. They're just going to go to the place, we would call it a watering hole. As sad as that is, it's like a wild prairie hunt where hunters will come to the watering hole and will wait for people to come to that spot. So it could be any app of choice. But they're looking for seasonal shifts in the industry. So I mentioned with shopping comes shipping. And so I know if you're anything like me, you've received plenty of fake shipping updates that have come to your text messages, right? And I think it's really, really important that as we go home for the holidays, This is a time, one time a year, where we're together with our family members, our parents. If you're lucky enough to still have your grandparents with you, take 10 minutes to talk about these types of things with them, because oftentimes we see many of our elders have not been trained on the kind of awareness to know that USPS shipping text messages to you that come from maybe a foreign overseas area code, there's a lot of red flags in that we should not be clicking those links. And unfortunately, if we're not having the conversations with our family members, the one time a year where we get together with them, my fear is that they're not having that talk at all.
Is that primarily the biggest scam right now, or the shopping deals, because it is the holiday season? Because it seems like on that one, they're going for high volume, low income, 20, 30 bucks, but you add that up, as opposed to going after somebody's who's got a large bank account and an involved scam that requires gaining their trust, through like a fake dating app site or something like that.
Yeah. Harry, you're describing it right in the sense that it's a wide net that they're casting. If you think of the idea of fishing, old school style, casting that wide net, seeing what fish get caught up in that net, and then kind of going from there. That's the kind of shopping scam we talked about. But what you're identifying is far more dangerous and malicious, and that is a targeted scam around high value earners. And as you can imagine, the later you get in life, the larger your nest egg becomes. And I think that's, first and aside, a good point for us to call out is scammers target the elderly not because they're naive and not critical thinkers. I think that's a misconception. They're targeting the elderly because, again, the later you are, the larger that nest egg has become. If you target somebody in their 20s, they might have some college debt and not much else to kind of go after. But scammers recognize that, and so to your point, if they know you're a high value earner, there's extra steps they're going to take to target you and your retirement account, your bank account in particular. And so that's, to me, the hardest conversations I have to have with folks is smart, educated, older individuals who've ended up unknowingly giving away their whole life savings.
So, and it's tough because you're the FBI, but at the same time, most of these people are overseas, I would assume. At least that's my experience in dealing with it. And getting this money back is nearly impossible.
Almost like a missing person case, there's a tight window for us to get money back. I would say if you report to ic3.gov, so internet, C3 is Crime Complaint Center, so ic3.gov. If you report that within 48 hours, we have like a 75% success rate to be able to recall those funds from the bank and get that back to you. So we encourage victims, if you've given money away, especially over a wire and not something like crypto, report to ic3.gov immediately. But Harry, you're right. If it's been longer and the funds have moved, it can be really challenging because most of these threat actors are based abroad. So Southeast Asia, West Africa, there's entire crime syndicates where their whole job is to take somebody who responds to that initial phishing text and pass them off to a series of people that you would almost think that you're talking to the most sophisticated customer service departments, right? That are passing you along. And each time they're trying to get a bite out of that apple and take as much as they can.
I want to switch real quick, even though we're focused kind of on holiday scams and the shopping, but you mentioned crypto. And I did a segment, what was it, last week? So within the last 2 weeks. I don't know, I can't remember.
Time is a construct.
But it was about how they're using crypto machines, crypto ATMs. Yeah. And people are, I'm hearing cases, at least like from the nonprofit Georgia Watch kind of talked about this, because there's no real oversight on these crypto ATM machines. And we went into one of these convenience stores, because that's where you find them, convenience stores and liquor stores.
Sure.
And I was amazed that when you turn on the options of how much money you can send, it asked you if you wanted to feed in cash up to 10,000, and then it was like, or 5,000, and then it was like, or option B, up to $25,000. Wow. And we've already heard a story of elderly people in there thinking that they're investing in something, or it's a love scam. where they're a romance scam, I should
Sure.
say, where they're actually just feeding
cash.
not realizing that there's no way to get that back. Are you getting a lot of that about these crypto ATMs?
Tragically, we are. We're getting, I sit in front of individuals all the time who've either they themselves or a family member of theirs has given away hundreds of thousands of dollars, spread out. Oftentimes, you mentioned the romance scam component. These folks that we love, our loved ones, many of them have been isolated post-COVID, and maybe later in life they just don't have as many people around them. And in these online relationships that get generated through the scammer, they're convinced that the person they're giving that money to is somebody they trust and love.
Right.
And again, back to the point of this idea of it's not that they're naive, it's that they're trusting. And I think scammers recognize that they want to prey upon the best instincts in us, especially over the holidays, to be charitable, kind, and giving. And we're seeing, I had a conversation with a woman the other day who was a dental hygienist who had thought she had a relationship with a soldier based abroad and had given away a ton of money to be kind and to help this gentleman. And obviously that was a script that had been passed around by many scammers. And so in those types of situations, 2 red flags that I would say, you've brought up one of them. If your loved one is going to a Bitcoin ATM machine in a 7-Eleven, as this person, your loved one, has no understanding of the crypto world or industry, that's not their normal investment style, right? They're not using Schwab or Vanguard, they're using this crypto ATM. That should be a major red flag, and a conversation needs to happen between you and that family member. The second is, if your family member is describing this relationship with a person they've never met, I would highly encourage you or that family member to Google things about that person and what's true about them. And what we see is that script shows up on Google results because it's happening to countless Americans who are having the same soldier, quote unquote, that they're engaging with.
Right, and it's a script that if you plug in, our chief investigator, Brendan Keefe, did a story about this, how, they're just copying and pasting. Listen, we could go on and on and on about this. Any final takeaways going back to, let's go full circle here, back to holiday scams, other than shopping online and checking and making sure that you're at the actual site?
Yeah, so I'm so glad we're talking about this for a number of reasons, but one of them is the idea that this is the one opportunity where everyone's going to be sitting around that table where we're doing our holiday traditions this year. And for me, I felt convicted about this. I went home to Texas over Thanksgiving, and I told my mom, get together all of your friends, and I want to just talk to them about scams for a few minutes and give some, examples.
Right.
I'm sure she was very happy to say, her FBI agent son was going to talk, and so she got together, I think, half the town, small town I'm from, and didn't know my mom had that many friends, but we got together, we talked through it, and I recognized that it would be a little awkward for many of your viewers and listeners to say, hey, family, let's talk for 10 minutes about scams. What are you going to cover in that 10 minutes? And so what I did is we worked together here at FBI Atlanta to record a 10-minute video that we put online. It's fbi.gov/holiday talk. And on that URL, you can watch this 10-minute version of the conversation I had with my mom and her friends. What are the top 5 trends we're seeing? Here's 5 specific steps, settings you need to be changing on your phone. For example, sending unknown callers immediately to voicemail.
Yep,
Basic
I do
steps,
that.
using password managers to have complex password for your bank account in particular. That should not be the same password as your Netflix account, right? These types of basic steps we're really trying to put online and say, have this new holiday tradition with your family. Talk for a few minutes about scams.
Daniel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and we're going to put all these links. If you didn't see them underneath, like if we forget for some reason, we'll have a link where you can go to where you can find all this stuff. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
And happy holidays
Happy
to
holidays.
everyone who's watching, and see you later.